let's make chicken fried rice. The first thing that I like to do is rinse my chicken. I already did that off of camera. So now I'm going to go ahead and put olive oil on my knife to cut up this onion. And putting olive oil on your knife helps your eyes not to burn whenever you're cutting up an onion. So you can slice an entire onion without shedding a single tear if you use some oil on your knife. I'm not going to cut the entire knife on camera. I'm going to cut the rest of it off of camera. But I have my own way of cutting an onion as well because I am absolutely terrified of cutting myself. But we're going to go ahead and slice it in half. And then I like to peel the first layer off, not just the dead like skins or whatever. But I peel the entire first layer off my onion. And then I also rinsed it off of camera as well. I like to slice a fourth of it and then dice it up, and then I do another fourth. That way I don't cut myself because I'm scared that it's gonna slip, the knife is gonna slip and cut me. And then we're gonna start putting that into the pan. And once I get this cut up, I'm gonna cut up the chicken as well. So after I dice this other fourth, I'll cut the rest of this off of camera. When cutting the chicken, I like to cut off some of the excess fat, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut the chicken in half, and then the bulky part of the chicken, I cut that in half as well. If you don't want to cut it, you can use a tenderizer just to flatten it out, but I'm doing this A, so that the chicken will stretch a little bit more, and then B, so that I can have some thinner, smaller slices. And I'm going to dice this chicken up pretty small. Some people like to have really big, bulky pieces of chicken in their chicken fried rice. Today, I did not. I just wanted some small little chunks, so I cut it up pretty tiny. I'm not going to cut the entire chicken on camera, but I just wanted to show you guys that I like to cut it up pretty small. And then if you wanted to, as it's cooking, you can kind of chop it up even more as it gets tender. I didn't do that this time, but I have done that in previous videos. Now that I've got the chicken and the onions in the pot, I'm going to go ahead and add some olive oil. And I'm doing this instead of coating the pot because I like to mix it in with my hands, and that way the seasonings stick better to the chicken and the onions. That's just my preference with this meal. I think that it cooks a lot better that way and the seasonings stick a lot better. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but that's just my preference. Now the seasonings that I will be using are pink Himalayan salt. And then I'm going to use some garlic powder. If you want to, you can mince your own garlic up and put that in there, but today I did not. And then y'all know I love my Lowry seasoned salt, so I'm putting plenty of that. And then if you've seen my previous videos, you also know your girl loves her pepper, so I'm putting some black pepper in there as well. And then we're going to go ahead and just stir that up with a little spatula or spoon, just so that that mixes in well, and then we'll turn it on low heat so that it can get started on cooking. For the rice, I like to cook it with some chicken broth. I think I used about like a cup and a half or 2 cups of rice, and then I used 2 cups of chicken broth, and then I ended up adding about a fourth of a cup of water off of camera, maybe an eighth of a cup. I didn't use very much water at all, but I did add a tiny bit. And then I also like to season it with a little bit of salt, just because this is some low sodium chicken broth and it is unsalted. But I am cooking it with chicken broth just because it adds a little bit of extra flavor and flavors the rice just a little bit differently. Now on another pan, I'm going to go ahead and put some butter, and then we're going to put 4 eggs. I like to just scramble these eggs lightly, and I like them flat, but I'm going to go ahead and cook 4 eggs. If you don't want as many eggs, you can do 2. I just put extra eggs because my husband and I like extra protein in our chicken fried rice. Now once the rice is ready and the chicken is ready, we're going to go ahead and pour the rice on top. I like my chicken to be browned just a little bit before I do add anything to it, just because I feel like it cooks better whenever it's on its own. And then we'll pour that rice in there, and after I pour the rice, I like to pour in some frozen peas and carrots. If you want to, you can also use some canned peas and carrots, but today I just used frozen, and we'll go ahead and mix that up and stir it before we add any extra seasonings. The seasonings for the rice I will be using are some soy sauce, and I put quite a bit. I don't measure. I probably put 2 to 3 tablespoons in there, but I like to measure it to taste. So that's how I flavor my food. And then I also use a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. I maybe used 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of that. I don't use near as much. I just use it because it adds a tiny bit of flavor. And then obviously we're going to salt it because the rice is not very salty and neither are the peas and carrots. If you want to add more, you can. I just like to taste it as I go and then add more if I need to add more. Now that I've got it seasoned and stirred, I'm going to go ahead and add my lid while the eggs cook. And then once the eggs are finished, we'll go ahead and take that lid off. Make sure you drip the water down in there because that takes away from the moisture if you don't. And then you can add your eggs to it as well. But I like to stir it up a little bit before I add the eggs, just to make sure that none of the seasonings just went straight to the bottom or none of the seasonings are stuck on the top. And then after you add your eggs, you can stir it up, and that makes it nice and flavorful. You don't have to put eggs in your fried rice. I prefer to. I just think that it flavors it a lot better that way. And I did not season my eggs at all, but I do add them in with the rest of this, and I just think that the flavor is amazing. So there you have it. You've got yourself some protein-packed chicken fried rice.